Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays. This is episode 103 of Matterhorn Mondays, your destination for all D23 news. Welcome everybody to a very special episode 103 of Matterhorn Mondays, your one-stop all for D23 news. I'm your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I'm Alex the Historian.
And if you guys couldn't tell by that special new sound bit right at the beginning, special thanks to Jason, Disney Dude, who was on the show last week as a guest, we're going to be covering extensively the Parks and Resorts panel that's going to be happening today. At D23, the D23 Expo convention. Today it's just Alex and I. We're just going to be chilling here with you guys, watching along. Like I said, this is going to be a very interesting podcast that we have planned for you today. For those of you watching live on either my main channel, the Matterhorn Matt Streams channel, my Periscope, Facebook, whichever, you'll get to join us in reacting live to everything announced from the Parks and Resorts panel at D23. And for those of you listening at home after the fact, we'll do a full recap on everything announced. We'll be taking notes. I got my Google Docs document open for you guys, and we may put out a bonus episode of this is the long hour and a half, probably long segment of Alex and I, and you guys, of course, reacting as well in the chat to the live stream. Well, I guess not necessarily live stream. We're going to see if we can find a live stream of the Parks and Resorts panel, because for some reason Disney decided to not live stream the Parks and Resorts panel, even though they're doing the literally everything else that no one cares about, they're live streaming. So we may or may not react to a live stream that we find, or we may or may not react to just, live tweets of people who are happening to attend there. So we'll play it by ear. Like I said, very interesting episode. Bless you, Alex. That's a big sneeze.
It was. That was embarrassing. Can we cut that from there?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and cut that part out. Like I said, we'll play it by ear, you guys, for those of you watching live. I said this before we started the podcast. If any of you happen to find a bootleg live stream of the Parks and Resorts panel, link it in the chat, link it in the Discord server, just at me. Or, like I said, if we can't find anything, we'll just react to the live Twitter feed of people who are there. I got TweetDeck pulled up on my fourth monitor. And so you guys know the drill. Link to our Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, everything, Alex's channel, are in the description down below. Everybody says bless you. Yeah, everybody say bless you in chat for Alex. And if you guys would like to be wished a happy birthday live on the stream, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description below. It'll take you to a Google Forms. You can fill in your name, your birthday, and we'll read it aloud. Wish you a happy birthday. We don't have any birthdays. Oh, actually, Matthew Rivera's birthday is on Tuesday, the 27th of August. So happy early birthday to Matthew Rivera. That's not me, Matthew. That's a different Matthew, as you could tell by the last name. Excuse me. Yeah, we have a very great podcast. I'm really excited for today. I'm also really nervous. I guess for those of you watching after the fact, we have no idea what's going to be announced, or I guess what is actually the specifics of what's going to be announced at the Parks panel. We still have a good 30 minutes or so to go before that actually happens, but before that, we do have, of course, news from the Peak, as well as some interesting Alex in the Parks, and I'd like to touch base on that special announcement that Disney talked about, that Disney, keyed as a special... What did they toy it as? A special Disney company, whatever, announcement that happened on Thursday. Yeah. I'd like to go in depth on that because I got some beef to pick with Disney. But anyways, if you guys are listening live, you can go ahead and leave a voicemail. Call 575-386-5814. Leave your voicemail on any topics we're talking about. Leave your thoughts. We'll go ahead and play those and react to those as well. But before we get into this week's news from the Peak, I do have... we're switching it up today, you guys. I have... what is this? Kiwi strawberry, and it's sweating. It's really wet on the outside, this bottle of Snapple. So let's go ahead and pop this bad puppy open for everybody. Let's see if I can get it good this time. Oh, that was a good snap, you guys. Yeah, we got jebaited hard with that special announcement. But I'll go ahead and pour this in. Using my special Where Have I Been, I think is what it's called, mug from Disneyland. Special thanks to Puckermint for sending that out to me. And I also have a water. You know, I'm cheating on Snapple just a little bit today. I expect to be to run out of Snapple very early within this episode. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get into this week's news from the Peak.
We now present to you news from the Peak.
All right, now this first bit of news from the Peak pretty much broke the internet when it was announced. What was this, on like Wednesday or even Tuesday, I believe? Anyways, very sad news for all you Spider-Man fans out there. Spider-Man is no longer in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, if you guys have no idea what you're talking about, if you're freaking out thinking, wait a minute, what did you just say? Well, I'll go ahead and recap it for you guys. So, as many of you know, Disney and Sony, well, I guess I should preface it by saying Sony owns the film rights, the distribution rights, I believe, to the Spider-Man character, the film rights, which means Disney/Marvel cannot use Spider-Man in any of their official MCU films. And back in, I think it was either 2015 or 2016, Marvel and Sony came to an agreement to, I guess, sort of share the character. They first introduced Spider-Man in the film? Civil War. Captain America Civil War is the first official film Spider-Man appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I believe they were pinned down for 4 or 5 films for Tom Holland's Spider-Man after that. So it was Civil War, it was Homecoming, it was Infinity War, and then it was Endgame. And then the last film was Spider-Man Far From Home, which recently passed $1 billion worldwide, Spider-Man Far From Home. So, but, well, it's a very complicated deal. Disney sees none of the box office revenue. From the previous deal they had, Disney gets none of the box office revenue. All of that goes to Sony. And Disney only gets, I believe, the toys, the toy sales, however much they make from that, and the comic book sales as well. All those profits go to Disney, while, like I said, all the film box office money goes directly to Sony. And just last week, I believe, Disney went back to renegotiate their contract with Sony because the 5 films that they agreed on were up. And I guess there's been no official words said by Disney themselves. I do know Sony put out a statement once this whole story broke out, which I'm not going to refer to because that I got some beef to pick with that statement that Sony put out about this because it's most likely, just damage control. But from my understanding, Disney/Marvel wanted at least, it was between 50% or 30% of the film profits because, I forgot to say this as well, Marvel and Disney were 100% footing the bill for the production of these Spider-Man movies, which means they paid for the movie, they paid for the production of it, and saw none of the returns for it because Sony got all the box office revenue for it. And I believe Disney wanted either 35 or 30 to 50% of the film box office money split between Sony. And from my understanding, from what I've read, Sony flat out said no to that. And then they didn't come back with a counteroffer. They just said, heck no, you can't have that much money. We're taking Spider-Man, keeping him for ourselves. And that's basically how it went down. Basically, I have seen a lot of people freaking out about how this will affect the Spider-Man ride in DCA. This will in no way affect the Spider-Man ride in DCA because Disney/Marvel owns the theme park rights to Spider-Man. Sony has no involvement in that. So the Spider-Man ride will go through 100% as planned. yeah, not really sure of the logistics behind this, but everybody's freaking out. Of course, I'm freaking out. Spider-Man is my favorite MCU, my favorite Marvel character. I was really happy to see him finally get some good films put out there.
Excuse me?
I mean,
You're saying the ones from the early 2000s?
Okay,
the
well,
real Spider-Man weren't good?
Okay, I was referring to the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield. Those ones were pretty crappy. It's universally, Alex is like, oh my, he's like giving me a death stare right now. Those were universally agreed to not be great movies, but, finally bring up to quality, bring up to the Marvel standards that Spider-Man deserves with these Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man Homecoming films. I'm confident, though, that they will reach a deal. Just give it a few months. Of course, this whole debacle is about money. Disney wants Spider-Man in the MCU because it brings them lots of money, while Sony wants to keep the Spider-Man rights because they want the money that Spider-Man brings. Like I said, Spider-Man Far From Home just grossed $2 billion, I believe, worldwide, or was it $1 billion? Someone said Spider-Man Homeless. It's going to be the next title of the Spider-Man trilogy.
That's what I was laughing at. Like, oh god, that's hilarious.
Spider-Man Homeless. Yeah, so I'm confident that they can work it out. Just give it a few months. Spider-Man 3, whatever that one's going to be titled, this new final movie in the trilogy with what's his name? Tom Holland. Is not set to film, I believe, until a year and a half from now, I believe. So they still have some time to reach a deal. And if not, then we can all just boycott Sony. I already boycott Sony. The only Sony movies I've seen are these Spider-Man movies because Spider-Man's such a big piece of my childhood. But anyways, yeah, big breaking news, you guys. I'm really sad to be reporting this. But Alex, what are your thoughts on Sony destroying everybody's hopes and dreams for Spider-Man's future in the MCU?
I really don't know exactly what I think about it because Sony, they don't have that much, like, big game movies, just the stuff that people really spend a lot of money on. So it's like when they acquired the cinematic rights to Spider-Man a long time ago, they kind of were sitting on a gold mine, and it was like their one card for something that would really smash the box office.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, since Disney wants a cut of it, Sony's kind of like, well, no, we really need this money. You guys are richer than God, like. So I don't know, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, you may own the cinematic rights to Spider-Man, but do you have a right to keep Spider-Man from fans when you can't produce a good movie?
Yeah, exactly.
On your own.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, maybe you should just give Disney, what they want. I mean, if it's like 50%, then give them 50%. At least you're getting some money from it. At least it's not sitting in a vault somewhere.
Yeah.
Doing nothing. Sorry. I just got a little upset there.
Yeah, no, this is a very passionate topic that I can get passionate about as well.
Yeah, I
like
don't
I
even
said,
like Spider-Man, and I have a passion about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what it is? It's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I wish he was still around. He's my Spider-Man.
He's your okay. Well, yeah, that was a great 2 movies. The third, of course, is universally agreed to not be the greatest. But yeah, I'm very angry about this, like I said, but I'm confident that they can work something out, because when it comes down to it, these are 2 companies fighting over money. And if you have 2 companies fighting over money, especially the amount of money that Spider-Man brings to both of these companies, again, like I said, Spider-Man Far From Home just grossed $1 billion worldwide. It's the first Spider-Man movie to ever do that in history. There's a lot of money to be made here, and from my understanding, I believe Spider-Man is the most popular superhero in, the United States, aside from, Superman, of course, you have Iron Man, all that. It's my personal opinion that Spider-Man is the most popular, the most...
I think what Matt's trying to say here is, Sony, take my money.
I mean, I've been boycotting Sony. I have not seen the Emoji Movie. I've not seen whatever. I can't even name any other movies that they've put out besides the Spider-Man movies.
I don't think it's called boycotting when it comes to the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just being sensible. Not see it.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. And I'd like to close this topic on saying a lot of people have been saying, Disney, just buy the Spider-Man rights back from Sony. Disney, just buy Sony. That's not going to happen. Disney is not going to buy Sony when they spent... How much did they spend to buy Fox? Was it like $25 billion in shares? Something like that. I could be wrong. Alex is giving me like a weird face.
No, I mean, I don't remember the number, but I feel like it was like really big. I feel like it was like 76 million in shares or something.
Yeah, it wasn't like flat out cash. It was like shares in the company that they paid with, I believe. So Disney is in no financial state to buy Sony. And even if they were, even if they had like a however much Sony would cost, even if they had $2 billion to buy Sony, the government would not allow that, because that is literally Disney becoming a monopoly. Disney buying Fox and then Disney buying Sony. That's not going to happen, you guys. And of course, the Spider-Man rights. Sony's never going to sell the Spider-Man rights to Disney. You guys have to understand that. Someone said in chat that Spider-Man is the only franchise that Sony owns. They're not going to give that up. Spider-Man is a big cash grabber. People relate to Spider-Man. People love Spider-Man. They're not going to sell the rights to Spider-Man. I mean, granted, maybe like 5 or 6 years when the movies that they make only produce $1 at the box office and then they go bankrupt, then, maybe Disney can think about selling, or then maybe Sony can think about selling Spider-Man to save the company. But anyways, it's enough on that topic. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Again, you can call in 575, the number is here somewhere, 575-386-5814. Voice your thoughts on the Spider-Man news coming to us. Oh, you're forgetting the Ghostbusters franchise. They're already rebooting that Ghostbusters franchise.
I thought they were Columbia TriStar.
Is it?
Wait, does Sony own Columbia TriStar?
No. I remember the recent female Ghostbusters movie was Sony. I remember that.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. It could be Columbia. Disney could own Columbia, but I do remember seeing the Sony logo before all the trailers. Yes, the Ghostbusters franchise. That's a big cash cow, you guys. Anyways, moving on to our second bit of news from the Peak. This is very interesting. That will tie into what we're going to be talking about later. The Walt Disney Imagineering presents the Epcot Experience, coming to the Odyssey Pavilion this October. Now, from my understanding, this is going to be a preview center in Epcot of all the upcoming changes that's going to be happening to Epcot. Which we hope to hear more about today. I do know that Disney teased, I think it was on either Thursday or Friday, they let in the media to all the halls and everywhere where the exhibits are held. So we do have some information on the Epcot future transformation. There's a lot of pieces of concept art out there that Disney put out. But we're going to be disregarding all of that until we hear the official news later on today, in a few minutes actually, in maybe 15-20 minutes, where we're going to be hearing about the upcoming changes coming to Epcot, hopefully. Very interesting. Yeah, it's a massive blue sky preview room, says Mark. That's exactly what it is, like the one in the DCA almost. It looks nice from the concept art. I mean, granted, you can't really judge things based off the concept art. Moving on to our third and final bit of news from the Peak. This is very interesting. Back to Marvel. The Eternals, Jack Kirby's Cosmic Series Experience, opens at Hollywood Studios, or should I say opened at Hollywood Studios. Beginning today, guests visiting the Eternals, Jack Kirby's Cosmic Series, can catch a glimpse of the original print issue #1 comic book that started it all. Now, if you guys don't know who Jack Kirby is, very legendary Marvel writer. I believe he was a writer. I do know that he did a lot of the artwork for the original comics for Marvel, sort of that defining style that they had. Big Jack Kirby fan. If you guys are fans of Jack Kirby, I'd highly recommend checking out this awesome exhibit, this wonderful, glorious image. Blog Mickey always provides the greatest pictures of all the recent news that they announce, so big shout out to Blog Mickey for whoever their photographer is. I'll find out next episode, and I'll personally thank them. But whoever their photographer is, big shout out to them because they always do these wonderful high-quality images. Not sponsored by Blog Mickey, by the way. But anyways, yeah, if you guys are fans of Jack Kirby, if you guys are fans of the Eternals, if you guys are just comic book fans in general, this looks like a really amazing exhibit for you. And on that note, it looks like we are all set for this week's news from the Peak. Again, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on everything listed here in this week's news from the Peak. And on that note, let's go ahead and get into this week's Alex in the Parks. We do have some very interesting stuff to detail today in Alex in the Park. So let's get that started. Yeah. In the park. I love that. I love that a lot. Anyways, for our first bit of Alex in the Parks, we detailed this last week, but what am I trying to say? We talked about this last week about the French fry rocks possibly being removed from the Tomorrowland entrance, and it is now confirmed, as you can see from this image. Let's see, from the I am not going to be able to pronounce this Twitter handle, so I apologize. Link will be in the description, though. As you can see from this image, the French fry rocks, or at least a large portion of the French fry rocks, are missing, have been removed from the entrance of Tomorrowland. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick update in regards of the French fry rocks?
Yes. So what you see in this picture, you can see that there's some kind of structure in the middle there, inside the construction walls. That is the concrete bunker which housed the air pump and computer mechanisms which controlled the astral orbiter. Those French fry rocks were installed not just for ugly decoration, but for purpose, in order to hide that bunker. But then more were installed so it didn't look like that set of rocks was lonely and by itself. So, anywho, I predicted last week that the rocks wouldn't actually go away because of the fact that they need this bunker to operate the ride. Well, obviously, I was wrong. And actually, I'm glad to be wrong because I hate those rocks and I'm glad that they're gone. So, yes, thanks, Matt. So yes, this is one of those times where I'm really glad to be wrong. However, the funny thing though is I don't know if they're going to keep this bunker or if they're going to get rid of it, because the ride operators need to get to it in order to operate the ride. If it breaks down in the middle of the day, they might need to restart the system, that kind of thing. And some of that work can be done from the control booths at the ride, but some of it must be done in that bunker. And cast members cannot cross into a construction zone like that. So something makes me think that during the last Astro Orbiter refurbishment, where they took the whole thing apart, that they actually moved the air pump house for it, probably into the people mover passageway behind Astro Orbiter. I'm behind Astro Blasters. So that's what I'm thinking, because there's a lot of loud equipment back there. So anyway, that's a separate thing. So what we can see from this picture, though, is that those rocks are gone. I don't know what they're going to put in its place, but they're certainly going to repave the ground there, and they're going to drop the curbs along Main Street so that way there's less tripping and stuff. And they're probably going to create more open standing room for fireworks viewing or parade viewing / nighttime spectacular viewing. So that'll be interesting. And I have one more interesting thing to put forth to you guys. So if you guys look at the concept art for Hong Kong Disneyland's new castle, they're showing a brand new water feature show that will take place in the moat in front of the castle. I can't help but wonder if they're preparing the hub for that very same thing, because they've been clearing out a lot of space in the hub. And yes, we can all argue it's for firework viewing, but we also know that the days of fireworks shows are numbered. You know, there is a point where Disney is like, yeah, these are too expensive. And now with World of Color technology, we can do other types of spectaculars. So that's an interesting thing to bring up that I wanted to see what you guys think about it.
What you guys think, yeah. Yeah, again, very interesting. I need to make this full screen again. Sorry about that. Full screen. There we go. In the background, I think we found a live stream, hopefully, that is streaming the parks panel. I'll link it to you, Alex, here in a bit. But yeah, thank you to Mr. Alex, the historian, for detailing this. Yeah, like we said, we reported on this last week, but we weren't necessarily wrong, because Alex did say that he didn't specifically say that they weren't removing the French fry rocks, I believe. You're looking very confused.
I don't really remember what I said, but I know I was thinking it.
Yeah, I do remember that part. Yeah, so very happy to see these rocks go. Again, not really sure what they're going to replace them with. But anyways, we do have one last bit of news from the peak here today, courtesy of Mr. Alex, a historian. As you can tell, that's his finger pointing at the Adventureland sign. So Alex, why don't you...
My finger.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and give a recap of what it is that you're pointing at here at the Adventureland entrance?
So last week, I was showing you guys in Alex in the Parks that they had put that construction scrim up, and they were working on that. Now, earlier this year, they had already worked in that very same location. I'm not talking about the sign. I'm talking about they added a new expanded walkway between Frontierland and Adventureland right by the restrooms. And they had created this like nice little area where you could stand and watch the water go down like a little tiny waterfall and then flow underneath the Adventureland bridge. I thought it was a nice little touch because you couldn't see it before because of all the bushes and bamboo and trees. Well, the walls came back up last week. And I was showing people that, I was showing you guys that on my video, and I couldn't figure out what they were doing. And now I came to the park just yesterday, and I snapped this image, and they had completely removed the bamboo shoots that were right next to the sign. I mean, if you were looking at this image, you wouldn't be able to see the fort or even the sky in this image because those bamboo shoots would have been so tall and so bambushy. So it's just like so I just made up that word. So anyway, it's just it's interesting. I don't know what they're doing exactly. But there was talks that like earlier this year that they were going to re-landscape that, maybe even expand the walkway just a bit more. They just didn't want to do it all at once. But there's also talks about this rumor of centralized fast pass distribution centers. One rumor is that a fast pass distribution center will go in front of the Magic Eye Theater in Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And then who knows, maybe this little area, maybe they'll put like a wooden like a wooden porch area over the water and install a centralized fast pass distribution right there. So I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. And yeah, or it could just be more stuff that's supposed to be installed for the entrance sign because there was a little thatched hut there before. Maybe they're going to install a new one that is out of the walkway. I don't know. I yeah.
Bambushy. Yeah, Alex just created a new word.
Bambushy. It's for when the bamboo shoots get too bushy.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Alex, for creating that new word for us. Yeah, I assumed that construction wasn't finished on the Adventureland sign, but we'll see. You know, this isn't necessarily a part of the park that's near and dear to my heart, so they can tear it whatever they want down, add new stuff. Alex is planning how to murder me at the moment. You can tell from his
no,
eyes.
really, I mean, in all seriousness, though, I really don't. I'm not so crazy that I'm like, oh, they took away the bamboo. No, I'm interested. I want to see what they build. I want to know. I mean, maybe it's just a nicer, prettier looking area that's, with new plants and things, or maybe it'll be a new structure. I don't know, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll provide updates on this as they happen. But before we get into anything, we do have 8 or so minutes necessarily until the Parks and Resorts panel happens live. And I believe, hopefully, I have a live stream pulled up here from Jamie Thomas. I'll go ahead and link that right now in the chat for all of you guys to watch along with. Let's see. I may or may not just play the audio or show the video itself. We'll see. Yeah, I'll link that in chat for everybody here to watch along with. I'll probably just play the video as well as the audio. Hopefully they don't copyright strike me. Jamie, if you're watching this, please don't copyright strike me. I'm a big fan. Just found your channel just a few minutes ago. But anyways, before this gets started, I'd like to go through some last-minute predictions of what we can expect to be announced at the D23 Parks and Resorts panel. Of course, we already know Epcot's going to be announced. Changes to Epcot and Marvel Land stuff is going to be announced. But besides that, Alex, what can you expect to be announced at the D23 panel that we don't necessarily already know?
This panel, you mean?
Yes.
This. Okay. Sorry, because I was focusing on something else while you were talking. I'm gonna put my prediction, and I know everyone disagrees with me on this, but my prediction is New Tomorrowland or New Fantasyland, either of them for Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
That's my prediction. As to what precisely they're going to say, I can only re-quote what my insiders have been saying, but the truth is I really don't know. But yeah, my prediction is either New Fantasyland or New Tomorrowland for Disneyland.
Okay, yeah, very bold predictions from Alex. I'm going to go a step further and say there were images released of the the show building of the new Epcot concept art, all that stuff, the show floor. I agree with Alex. New Tomorrowland or New Fantasyland is most likely going to be announced. I'm leaning more towards Tomorrowland, but I'm going to go a step further. I love Mary Poppins, and it's been rumored that there's going to be a Mary Poppins attraction coming to the UK Pavilion in Epcot for a while. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and say Mary Poppins attraction coming to the UK Pavilion for Epcot. I could be wrong. There is a piece of artwork of the England or the UK Pavilion with Mary Poppins up in the top left, top right, whatever. That could just be like a nod because, she lives in the UK or wherever, England, I don't know. But yeah, that's my prediction. Alex, of course, stole the big one that everybody is predicting, so I couldn't say it. But anyways, yeah, we do have a few more minutes left to go. We do have a voicemail to listen to, so let's go ahead and get that started. There's no name attached to this, but it is about Epcot, so let's go ahead and listen to this here for everybody to hear.
My thoughts are conflicted on the new Moana attraction coming to Epcot. On one side of me, it fits in Epcot because it's going right next to the Living Sea Pavilion. On the other side of me, I just don't like that it's like pretty much replacing the Fountain of Nations. And there's that side of me that also thinks that it's a better fit in Adventureland or Polynesian Village. I think that would be a perfect fit in Polynesian Village Resort, but that's just me. But that's my thoughts so far. And I'm excited to see the rest of the announcements for D23. Thank you.
All right, yeah, no name attached. This is about the Moana, not necessarily
That's
an attraction.
Avery.
Was that Avery? Oh.
Uh-huh.
You can recognize him by his voice.
No, it's just earlier in the chat, he said, I sent a voicemail.
Yeah. I see Avery says, that's my voice. Okay, I thought Alex was like best friends with Avery and could like recognize. Anyways, thank you to Avery for sending that voicemail. Yeah, this is about the Moana quote-unquote attraction coming to Epcot. I don't really think it's necessarily an attraction. It's more like an exhibit walkthrough kind of thing. It is very strange to have Moana in Epcot, but I don't know. I don't really have any...
It is kind of strange, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't necessarily have...
and in Future World of all places.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very...
Oh my goodness, that is so weird.
We're going to be talking a lot about Epcot, you guys, later today once that all happens. Next week, hopefully we can get Jeremy on the show, because he recently took a trip to Walt Disney World, and we want to have him sort of recap his experience from that, as well as get in depth on all the Epcot news that was announced today, this past week, whenever you're listening. But yeah, so we're going to probably go more depth into this subject later today, as it is officially, announced by Bob Chapek or Bob Iger, whoever's up there. I think Bob Chapek is going to be the one on stage, which is really sad. Yeah, so we'll go more in depth on that. People are saying the return of the People Mover. That'd be a sight to behold. I'm going to go ahead and say, if they announce the return of the People Mover to Disneyland, I'm trying to think of like something like a challenge that I can do that will make you guys laugh or something. I don't know if this is funny or not, but I have like a lot of carrots here that I'm probably going to be chomping on while we're watching the stream or following along. Alex, I was going to say I'll eat all these carrots in one sitting, but that's not necessarily like a challenge. Like drink 100 Snapples, that's like, I'm not rich, you guys. So if you guys can like think of something, if the People Mover is announced to return to Disneyland, then I will blank in chat. Say what you want. I'll pick the most ludicrous one and I'll do it. There is music playing for some reason. Do you guys hear that music? Alex, do you hear that Tomorrowland music?
I do, yes.
Where is that coming from? Oh, it's coming from this. Oh, it's from the other live stream that I have here. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple live streams to flip back and forth between. We'll see. We still have around 2 minutes left until...
All right, so we're watching the live stream on the one with Jamie Thomas.
That's the one I have open now. I also have the other one from Michael K as well. So we'll see whichever one. Jamie is, of course, he's already talking and stuff.
Are you putting any of them on the screen for everyone to see? Because otherwise I was going to follow up on a separate web page.
I think I'm going to put the stream up on the screen for everybody to see. But yeah, it'd probably be best for you to watch along separately so there's no lag. Hector says get a People Mover tattoo. Okay. I already have a People Mover tattoo. It's kind of...
Okay, I was going to say, in that case, could you silence the audio on your video is playing?
Yeah. I'll stop. Yeah. I'll stop that going through the mic. And who said that? Hector said, yeah, I already have a People Mover tattoo. I announced it a while back. It's kind of I took some creative liberties. It's sort of like it's like a bracelet style thing around my wrist of like the People Mover. It's not perfect, but I'll show like a closer picture here. Yeah, it's not perfect or anything, but I already have a People Mover tattoo, so joke's on you. Keith asks, Alex, do you have a tattoo?
No, I don't really believe in tattoos. Well, not that I don't think they exist. I just mean I just don't want tattoos on me.
Okay. Hey. So we're still waiting for this to start. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not really sure if they're gonna Disney security's gonna come out to all these people and smack them on the wrist with rulers or something, tell them to put their phones away. Hopefully not.
Pull a gun on them.
Yeah, pull. Oh my god. Anyways, I'll have Twitter open nonetheless if these streams do get stopped, do get taken down. Bad timing for a Brazil pavilion because of the Amazon fire. Ayo, hey guys, why? If the Amazon's on fire, why did I just get my Amazon Prime shipment the other day? But that should be we should have a bad joke sound effect. But anyway,
yeah, we should womp womp.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think Offhand Disney is in this chat as well as Expedition Theme Park. So big shout out to them. Not in our chat, but in the chat for Jamie Thomas's live stream. Because with all the Tron Cycle rumors for Disneyland's Tomorrowland, I really believe that The new Tron Legacy should he and the People Mover tunnel. Yeah. I
think it's starting.
Is it? Oh, okay, it's starting. All right. Oh my!
Hope,
it's ending,
magic,
you guys.
And the power of a wish to change a life and the world. Because after all, we are all here because of one man's wish to build a place where both he and his daughter can have fun together. And look what that's led to. Millions of families around the world brought...
This sucked. This was kind of like a crappy Parks and Resorts panel. I mean, granted, they don't do like this is one last big announcement, which I probably will never know of because the stream is buffering. Where's my Tomorrowland, Fantasyland? What is happening? Do they not understand?
I'm so angry that they haven't announced anything for Tomorrowland or Fantasyland.
Nothing for Disneyland. I'd like to point out nothing new.
Well,
besides the parade. Besides the parade, but no one cares about the parade. The concept art for Runaway Railway, that's it. Yeah. Again, they could be saving it last minute. I do agree they do have to end on a big... Okay, no, it looks like it's over. It looks like it's over. Okay. According to Twitter. I guess this is just not going to come back online. Okay, we'll give it a few more minutes. They could... Okay, here we go. Oh, no, the video's ended. It's over, you guys. Parks and Resorts panel is over. Is there an end credits scene to the Parks panel? Oh my gosh. Okay, well that...
Wow.
That was interesting. That was...
See, now everyone asked me, they're like, Alex, are you going to the D23 event? I said, no. Because every time I go to these things, it's always extremely underwhelming for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this one did not prove me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That just was terrible.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
It is worth noting I didn't get my bingo. I don't think anybody got a bingo. No one in the...
Nobody wins, Matt. Nobody wins.
Exactly. Oh, I'll just close this out. Don't save. Well, okay. Where do we even begin? That was almost 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours of nothing but like nostalgia that they're just...
I mean, granted, they brought the Target dog out. That was a highlight. Everybody cheered for that. I'm trying to keep up with Twitter to see if... I guess that's just it. There's nothing else. Well, I honestly don't know what to say. I expected a lot more from this. Granted, I mean...
And what was the big announcement? That's what I wanted to know.
I mean...
Like... There was no single announcement that they said was the big one in this panel. Like, what was it?
Yeah, I guess people all expected a new pavilion for the World Showcase, Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
That is nowhere. People expected Figment, Journey into Imagination to be updated. At least something on that. Bob said the word, Figment, and then just brushed right past it. He didn't say anything was going to be happening. Disneyland again, no new announcements besides the daytime parade, which no one necessarily cares about the daytime parade.
You know, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is they probably did have some big announcements to make, but probably very last minute they decided with how poorly Galaxy's Edge's opening did, that they were kind of just like, you know, maybe we should wait for these big projects, you know, these big park projects, I should say, until the one in Florida opens and until a bunch of these other previously announced projects open and get more money, you know? I mean, you think about it, this parade and the new Runaway Railway in Toontown would help Disney pay off some of the money that it, you know, accrued just building Galaxy's Edge. and the Marvel Land as well will bring more people. I think honestly they probably just last minute decided to not announce anything major for Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we all assumed that the focus was going to be on Walt Disney World because of the 50th anniversary, but you can't leave out Disneyland. Someone asked in chat, do we know where the Avengers Campus Phase 2 will be built? It's going to be built behind where we all predicted it was going to be, in that empty lot behind behind Mission Breakout. At least that's where the new e-ticket is going. I'm not sure if there's going to be any other additions besides that.
And if you looked at the concept art for it, sorry, I'm tired. It showed a massive gray building with the word Avengers on it.
Yeah.
And it's a giant, it looked like a giant square building, which reminds me of the Banshee ride at Pandora. I mean, I forget what it's called, but Flight of Passage. Yeah. It honestly, and it showed people on these little jetpacks flying through the thing. It looks like just a slightly different, maybe more upgraded version of Flight of Passage, but Avengers themed. And we all thought that there would be a big coaster. Like, I mean, I was hearing from my insiders that Disney was going to bring the Tron coaster that they have being built at Walt Disney World here, but it was going to go in Marvel Land. So there would be a Marvel coaster, which could still happen. I mean, it could be a slightly different coaster train, but I mean, it doesn't sound like that's what this ride is going to be. It sounds like it's going to be like some type of Flight of Passage redo.
Yeah, it does, excuse me, seem like a simulator type attraction, which, you know, we need more simulators, you guys. We need more simulator attractions in the Disney parks.
More screens.
Exactly, you guys.
I mean, look, you know, I mean, the Spider-Man ride that they're talking about,
screen.
It is, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, you know, Alex, it's not just going to be any old screen ride. Like, the ride vehicle itself is going to project blah blah blah. Okay, but the thing is usually when Disney, or at least the old Disney, would build rides, the ride vehicle served some kind of story purpose. So you get on Pirates of the Caribbean, you're on like a little pirate boat. I forget what it's called. It's like a life raft for a pirate ship. It's called like a longboat or something. Anyway, you're on supposedly like a longboat going through this whole thing. You get on, you know, Haunted Mansion, your doom buggy is a haunted carriage that takes you through the thing. You know, there's usually a story behind the ride vehicle, and the ride vehicle for the new Spider-Man doesn't seem to have a story. It's just, oh, this is your mode of transportation. It's like, well, why this? You know, if we weren't getting in this to hunt down the robot spiders, what would this have been used for otherwise? That's the story behind a ride vehicle, you know? So it's just kind of like weird. It's, you know, you get on the Jungle Cruise. I'm sorry. I'm dying. You get on the Jungle Cruise, and if you weren't touring through the jungle on this boat, that boat might have transported supplies to other encampments throughout the jungle. You know what I mean? So there's usually a purpose behind every ride vehicle, and that one, they didn't reveal a purpose. They might later, but at this moment, it's kind of like, well, no, it's just they happen to have these weird vehicles that are hermetically sealed, and you get inside, and what does it do? So, yeah, so that's what I think about. I mean, Marvel Land, I'm probably never going to go to it. I'm not a superheroes kind of person. I like Ninja Turtles. Sometimes I like Superman, mostly just the old Christopher Reeves Superman. but I'm not a superhero person. Just really, I'm the opposite of one. I don't really like superheroes, especially not nowadays, where they're all ultra powerful. They're all gods. So it's like, and they're all fighting each other. But anyway, let's not get into that. So, how should we structure this? I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm just gonna randomly.
Okay, well, I guess before we start, Mickey Views just tweeted, and I agree with him. He says they don't want another Galaxy's Edge situation where they announce something cool and people wait to go. So instead, they just don't announce specifics for any new attraction that isn't coming in the next fiscal year. Short-sighted move. Hashtag D23 Expo. Yeah, a lot of this does seem... Well, I guess we should preface this by saying, for those of you guys just joining us here, we just watched the entirety of the D23 Parks Resorts, whatever it's called, panel. And I'm sure you can tell by our reactions here, it was extremely underwhelming. I guess if you're a fan of Epcot, but I guess even if you're a fan of Epcot, they're destroying Epcot. So how can you be excited about... Okay, we'll just run down the list of things that they announced. First, of course, they spent the majority talking about the Epcot refurb. Future World is gone. They're splitting it into 3 different... They call them neighborhoods, like how they're theming... what is it, Pixar Pier, like with the Toy Story neighborhood. That's really it, I think. Basically, everything that they announced today was already announced back on Thursday when they let the media come in for the preview. You got to see all the concept art. Granted, they did show new pieces of concept art for everything that was already announced on Friday. And they even put out a big long article, I believe, on the Disney Parks blog, like detailing all the changes that are coming. Again, that article wasn't specific. But then again, Bob Chapek, who was up here, was not getting into any specifics of, basically anything in Future World. I mean, there's still questions about whether or not Figment, Journey into Imagination, is going to be refurbed. They made no mention of that. They made no mention of that in the concept art and the pass that they announced for the media preview on Thursday. They talked about the new restaurant coming to the Mission Space area, but that was announced almost like 2 years ago at this point. They announced that was opening later this year in December, I believe. What else for Epcot? They announced the Mary Poppins attraction for World Showcase, which kind of a surprise. Always a surprise, but a welcome one, to be sure. Is that how the quote goes? I'm trying to think of what else did they announce?
The Moana walkthrough.
Yeah, the Moana walkthrough they announced coming to quote-unquote Future World. It's not Future World anymore. But again, that was already announced back on Thursday when they let the media come in. They made no... what I remember, there were no new details regarding that as well.
All they did was recap what they've already announced. They didn't really give anything new. And then all they did was dress it up with some trips down memory lane, which had nothing to do with what they're currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt less like a homage to Epcot and more like a funeral, like a farewell.
Yeah, that's literally what it was like. It was a funeral for Epcot. That's what it was. At least that's how it felt like to us. I'm sure that wasn't their intention when they were putting the presentation together. But, from everybody collectively, that's how it came across, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad, too, because it's like, here they are talking about, Epcot means, the potential of the future, the blah, blah, blah. And me and Matt are like, what does Guardians of the Galaxy have to do with the future? What does Moana have to do with with the future and with how society and stuff innovates? And it has nothing to do. None of the things that they announced for the new Epcot have anything to do with the whole reason why Epcot was made.
Yeah.
And yet here they are telling you, this is what Walt wanted and blah, blah, blah. And
they are even putting a statue of Walt in Epcot, sitting there contemplating.
Contemplating what have they done.
Exactly.
It made me so mad because what they're trying to do, people, is they're trying to make these announcements, and in order to make it seem like they're not doing anything wrong, they're putting Walt behind it, saying, "Oh, this is the things that he envisions for us."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like, you can't just parade around Walt. You can't parade around, Dick Van Dyke and all these people that we love just to support your cause. That's not right. Quote them for what they meant. Don't quote them for what you want to interpret what they meant.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, Walt Disney was a very literal person. So don't try to interpret what he said as something else when he clearly stated what the context was.
Yeah. Very mixed messages coming from Bob when it comes to Epcot. And I'm sure we'll get into a whole Epcot discussion once Jeremy's on, hopefully next week. Because, Jeremy is a big Epcot fan, I guess is the right words to use. So I'm sure he has some words to say about that. I think he's at work right now, so I'm not sure if he necessarily got to see all the announcements that they made. Quote unquote announcements, because there was nothing new. Well, I guess another one that I missed, they're bringing IPs into Spaceship Earth. You could see in that piece of concept art very visibly, there was a scene from the end of Moana where she's on that raft and then the manta ray comes swimming across the sky. So take that with what you will. I've already gotten some texts from some of my friends about how angry they are that they're bringing IPs into Spaceship Earth. I guess I'd be fine with them demolishing the entirety of Future World. Replacing it with the big 3-story festival center. That seems cool. I'm okay with that. Looks really neat. Replacing Innoventions, demolishing that, but then just replacing it with trees and like water features with nothing new, no new substance. It's just, they even said on stage, Bob was like, we're going to be adding a lot more shade, you guys. And everybody clapped because of that, because, it does need shade. But the one thing...
What they didn't know is that he meant he was going to be throwing a lot of shade.
Oh, Bobby, what are you doing? I'm okay with all of that. But then they go and touch Spaceship Earth. They say they're keeping some of the old scenes, man's journey through communication. But then they say, I can't remember the exact words that Bob used. It was something along the lines of, we're introducing new stories. Stories is the word that they use when they say they're bringing IPs from movies into attractions. We're making adding new story to this. That's basically code word for that. And then, like I said, they showed that concept art for Moana inside of Spaceship Earth. And I think they said they were getting a new announcer. I missed that part because I was babbling over bringing IPs into Spaceship Earth. I'm fine with everything else, but if you bringing IPs into Spaceship Earth, that's like one of the things that I know Twitter, all the forums are going to be popping off about.
One of the things I really hated that Bob Chapek was saying a lot today was guests want more Disney.
Yeah, he opened with that, actually.
Yes, that made me so angry because it's like, just because Imagineering comes up with original concepts doesn't mean it's not Disney. It just means that it's something original, something new. You don't have to fill your parks with previous concepts. Create new stuff, innovate, come up with new stories that will inspire new generations to do new things. Don't teach new generations to copy old generations. It just doesn't. And like I said, just the way that he worded it, just like, we're bringing in more Disney. It's just like, no, everything you do is Disney, so do it. It just really ticked me off.
Wow, a 2-hour-long, highly produced, massive presentation featuring nothing but previously released information that left people with more questions than answers, from Joshua Harris. Spot on there. Big fan of him. Follow him on Twitter. I'm trying to think like I said, I've never watched any of these previous parks. Now, I remember I watched the one in 2017. I remember them talking about Galaxy's Edge. I remember watching, I think, the whole entirety of that one, actually. But that was actually, I can't remember if it was like new stuff that they announced For those of you guys watching, if watched the previous ones as well, was it the previous ones as underwhelming as this? Did they announce everything 3 days before the actual panel, and then provide no new information on any of the things that they announced? I'm very curious as to how this has been going in the past. Well, I guess that's pretty much it from Epcot. They provided new concept art for the Ratatouille ride, which was announced almost like 3 years ago at this point, I think.
But that's another upsetting thing. Is like, what's the point in showing concept art for the new Ratatouille when one has already been open for a couple years? We can see video of it. Like, we don't need concept art for a clone of a ride that has been open.
Yeah, I agree as well. They announced new Circle Vision films for France and for Canada, which again were previously announced. I feel like a few months ago those were announced on the Disney Parks blog. Mary Poppins attraction, which I'm very happy about. I love Mary Poppins. I think, Mary Poppins is my favorite franchise. I hate calling it a franchise, but that's what it is now. Mary Poppins is my favorite Disney movie franchise, I guess. What else did they do for Epcot? I think that's everything that they talked about Epcot. Someone said in chat this was sort of billed as more focused on Walt Disney World because of the 50th anniversary, but they made no mention of refurbs to any of the Fantasyland attractions in the Magic Kingdom, which desperately need refurbs. If you've been on the Peter Pan attraction in Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom, you'll know that attraction is in desperate need of a refurb, whether it be just new coats of paint or whether it be bringing it up to speed like how they've done here at Disneyland with the projections. All those attractions need refurbs. They made no mention of that. What did they announce for Magic Kingdom? They announced, like I said, they put a graphic on screen of like new foods, cupcakes and cookies that are coming for the 50th anniversary for the Magic Kingdom. That was pretty much the entirety of the announcements that they made when it came to specifically the 50th anniversary of the Magic Kingdom. Cupcakes and cookies. Everybody loves cupcakes and cookies.
The other thing too is that if you think about Disneyland's 50th anniversary, Disney had brought a whole lot of new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just rides, but they had announced just huge refurbishments of old rides, bringing them new again. Just polishing everything. And there might be a little bit of that, going on for Magic Kingdom's 50th. But the fact that they didn't announce it means that it's probably not going to be too much. They're probably not going to be polishing up very much. And that's really sad because this is going to be a big opportunity for them to show off how Magic Kingdom can be relevant even today. Like, remove the dust off of the rides, and get them nice and polished and new looking. It's like like every time I see videos of the place, it looks like it's old. It doesn't, like, you look at Disneyland, it looks like it was built yesterday. You look at Magic Kingdom, it looks like it was built in 71. There's just things about it that are just old, and it's just sad.
Yeah, regarding the Magic Kingdom, off the top of my head, there was nothing new they announced that's coming to the Magic Kingdom. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe I blacked out for a good 30 minutes or something, but I didn't. Nothing was announced for the Magic Kingdom. I could be wrong. I could be just forgetting.
Well,
so you
let's
guys
look at what we already know is coming.
Okay.
So we know that the new Tron ride is coming.
That was announced at D23 in 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, and honestly, it's a safe move for them because it was a concept that's been proven overseas.
Yeah.
And they know that people aren't going to turn down a roller coaster here. So, that's coming. And then the Walt Disney World Railroad is getting polished up. I'm not going to say transformed or anything. It's just getting cleaned up and put together again. And oh my God, is that it? I think that's it.
That's it. There's nothing else. People are making mention.
Nothing else.
No new mention of new monorails for Walt Disney World. We have detailed in depth on this show of all the problems that the monorails have been having. This, not even just this past 4 months, the past 2 years we've been doing this show. We've been talking about how the monorails at Walt Disney World need refurbishment or just need new monorails overall. I feel like just a few episodes ago we were talking about an incident that happened on the monorail where a panel caved in, or I saw on Twitter probably, where a roof panel caved in and almost hit somebody in the head. No new mentions of new monorails. No, and we're talking...
Those monorails are 8 years past their expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
They are only designed for 20 years of service. So they were introduced in 91. They should have been taken out of service or replaced in 2011. And yet it looks like we're going to go straight into the 50th anniversary with 3 decades of the same monorail service.
Mm-hmm.
Monorails that are falling apart,
literally
falling
apart. Yeah.
Yeah, just.
And we're here talking about how our Tomorrowland needs a refurb. I'm not big on the Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland. I was a big fan of the way they redid that in 1998 or 2000, whenever that was, 1996. I was a big fan of the aesthetic that brought. But now we have, of course, we just talked about the Tron coaster. That's the only new announcement in regards to the new Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom. No refurb to Space Mountain, which, you guys, Space Mountain in the Magic Kingdom needs a refurb. It's not up to par. I'm not saying our Space Mountain is amazing. It's great. I think our Space Mountain is great. It's not amazing. But Walt Disney World Space Mountain is not even up to par when it comes to our Space Mountain.
It is so old.
Yeah.
And so rickety. I mean, it feels like you're riding on a pile of garbage.
It does. It does. It's an accurate statement.
And I once again, I have to agree with Matt. I'm not saying Disneyland's Space Mountain is amazing. I mean, it's okay. But I mean, Magic Kingdom's is in its dire straits, and it just needs a redo.
Yeah.
And and can I just talk about Disneyland's Tomorrowland for a second?
Okay.
The fact that there is so much going on with Disneyland's Tomorrowland that it in itself needs a complete overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the roof of the Carousel Theater, which had Innoventions in it and is now Star Wars Launch Bay, they can't even use the second floor because parts of the roof are caving in from water damage, and they are completely neglecting it. The structure has attained damage over the years from age and from earthquakes and things like that, and just plain lack of maintenance, as well as the fact that it's taking up a huge amount of space doing nothing but selling merchandise that you can get in Galaxy's Edge or Disney stores across the nation. And the other thing too is that the rest of Tomorrowland, I mean, there's so many abandoned structures, and there's rides that are not working. I've got friends who work on the submarine voyage who are telling me that half their submarines are not functional. They are seriously sitting at the dock, not functioning. You've got rides like Astro Blasters, which was cool in 2005 because it was a new concept. It was like, it was a video game on a ride. Great. But what is it today? Well, it's old. It's a carnival ride. Everything is made of cardboard. Not really, but everything looks like it's made of cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't look like it is up to the Disney standards. And Star Tours, it is no longer necessary in Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Yes, it makes sense. I know everyone hears me like, well, Alex, it makes sense. It's a starport. I get it. But there is a whole new galaxy, quite literally, on the other side of the park where you can do new things with. You don't need Star Tours in Tomorrowland. The only reason why you might need it in Tomorrowland is because there's nothing else to do. So it's just like, I know I'm ranting, but it's because I'm so angry that they haven't even, they won't even say, oh, by the way, we're thinking of a new Tomorrowland.
No
they won't
mention
even say
at
that.
all. Yeah.
No mention.
And I guess I should preface this by saying we're not trying to be negative.
No.
We're not trying to bash on Disney. We knew that this expo here would have to be amazing given how Galaxy's Edge performed, given how we've been asking for. I mean, not even us asking. You visit Tomorrowland in the Disneyland, and you'll see half the attractions there are closed. Given even if you go to the Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland, Stitch's Great Escape, that building is abandoned now. There's no attraction there. Of course, we already mentioned Space Mountain needs a refurb. Given in the context of all of those, and even Epcot to an extent, Epcot has been in need of a refurb for many, many years, and I'm happy they're finally giving it the attention it deserves. But given all of that wrapped up, we knew that this Parks and Resorts panel would have to knock our socks off. Do you guys know what I'm trying to say? When it comes to announcements for the Magic Kingdom's 50th anniversary, there were none. No announcements for the Magic Kingdom's 50th anniversary. Animal Kingdom was completely ignored. No mention of Animal Kingdom. No mention of Hollywood Studios. And even in Disneyland, of course, California Adventure, we got new information on the Marvel Land, which is cool. You know, I'm excited for Marvel Land. I love Spider-Man. I love the characters. But just 50 feet away, north, Tomorrowland is rotting away. And it's just very interesting the way that they build this panel to be. Again, it was mainly built to be focused on the Magic Kingdom, on the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World as a whole. But even when they neglect to make announcements for things that are in need of repair at the Magic Kingdom, like we just mentioned the Fantasyland attractions, we mentioned Tomorrowland there. I'm sure there are other aspects of the Magic Kingdom that could use some sprucing up when it comes to the 50th anniversary. There's nothing at all. And it's just very interesting the way that this whole thing is unfolded. Again, like I said, we're not trying to be cynical on purpose. It's just, this is the information that Disney is providing with us based on how Galaxy's Edge has performed. Galaxy's Edge is awesome, but getting people into the parks, since Disneyland at least has been so empty when it comes to Galaxy's Edge, you'd think they'd want to announce new offerings to draw people into Disneyland. I mean, Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, sure. That's just a very small piece of the puzzle that will...
I think, to clarify, because I know it seems like that we're unreasonable. It's like, oh, but they're going to build Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Toontown. Isn't that enough? Well, my problem is that it seems that for the past decade, Disney has been more concerned about expansion than they have revision. And revision is a major key of the company because they've done this before. Back in the 1980s, a lot of the attractions at Walt Disney World were starting to get really old. I'm talking about late 80s, starting to get very old, and the company was just like, oh, let's just build another park. So they built Hollywood Studios. After that was starting to get old, they're like, oh, let's build another park. We're going to add Animal Kingdom. I feel like you can't expand a park until you make sure that they revise the things that aren't working about it, because then it's just going to look like, it's kind of like when they say polishing a turd, it's just like, you can't polish a turd by putting a brand new toilet next to it. You have to remove the turd. So it's just like, it just doesn't, that's not, and so I just feel like that's great that that Toontown is going to get Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, but they should also focus on fixing some of the abandoned parts of the park.
Yeah.
You know, because that new ride isn't going to look so nice next to all these abandoned structures. You know.
Yeah, and
all these aging structures.
I've seen people on Twitter just recently within the past few minutes talk about how why would they announce a Tomorrowland refurb when that's going to be years off in advance? They did the same thing for Galaxy's Edge. They announced Galaxy's Edge in 2015, opened in 2019, sorry. That's 5 years. In between the announcement to the opening, you'd think they'd make at least a mention. Someone said in chat, no mention of the French fry rocks being removed.
Mm-mm.
I mean, again, that may or may not be worthy of its own thing, its own announcement at the convention. But you know, Disney has been known in the past to announce things years before the years before things have actually opened, and it's just very, I don't know. I'm disappointed, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm disappointed that, I don't know, people are saying maybe they could announce Tomorrowland refurb after, in maybe like a few months or so, save that for a blog post or something. But why would they? That doesn't make any sense to me, why they would save that for a blog post when they literally spent 20 minutes talking about Target. The what is it? The thing,
Disney Parks panel was discussing Target.
And then I love I love dogs. They brought the Spot. What is its name? Target? No. What is his name? Bullseye. That's it. They brought Bullseye out. Dog. Very cute dog. I'll give them that. But yeah, they spent like 20 minutes talking about the collab with Disney Parks merchandise. Not even Disney Parks merchandise. Disney merchandise at select Target locations, when they, you know, could have used that time. They could have put that in a blog post. Why not make that a blog post and actually use that time to talk about something more important? What was the big surprise they were going to unveil? I have no idea.
None of us have any idea.
I've been hearing people talk about big surprise. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be.
I think the big surprise was their silence.
Disney's downfall. I'm not sure if that big surprise everybody's talking about is supposed to be that special announcement that they were going to be making back on Thursday, or if there was specifically some mention of a big surprise coming that was going to be announced at the Parks panel. I might have missed something because I can't recall.
So someone asked a question earlier in the chat, which I think is a good question to answer.
Okay.
Okay, I forget who it said. Okay, so Francisco Valdez asked, do you guys think they can announce stuff after D23, like Runaway Railway announcement? Yes. So in the past, when they first started doing D23, like 10 years ago or so, they started to reserve all their announcements only for D23. And that was kind of cool because then all these announcements came out at once. It was such a fun event. And that kind of stopped for the 2013 D23. And then ever since then, they've kind of just focused less and less on saving those announcements for D23, which is why I haven't gone back to D23 since 2013, because they don't save everything for then, which is fine. But I'm not going to go if it means that there's not that much. So yes, they've been announcing stuff in between D23s. So the last time they announced stuff was last year. In fact, in 2018, they gave all these announcements for things. Even earlier this year, they announced the new Frozen land, the new Peter Pan land for the Paris Hollywood Studios Park, so, and there was no mention of those in this year's D23. So Wow, Matt's being really silent. I'm surprised he isn't. Okay, so yeah.
Oh, my mic was muted. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say they also announced earlier this year. They announced the Zootopia Land coming to Shanghai, and they provided one other piece of concept art for that here today at the expo.
Yeah, you know what was another thing some other people were predicting that they would announce today was a redo of Splash Mountain into a Zootopia theme.
Yeah.
Someone else was predicting that. But again, that wasn't I don't really care either way. I still like the Splash Mountain theme, but nevertheless, it's just it feels like this was a very missed opportunity, and it smells like Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like so many things went wrong with Galaxy's Edge. Not to say it was a flop, because it wasn't a flop, but so many things went wrong with the execution of opening Galaxy's Edge that they backpedaled for this D23 announcement and were like, oh, we're not going to announce anything until the last minute, which means nothing was announced today, pretty much.
Yeah, it is very interesting if you look at this in the context of how Disneyland has been performing with Galaxy's Edge. Because that was something we were worried about once the crowds didn't initially show up for Galaxy's Edge. We were worried, oh, they're going to start making a bunch of budget cuts in the coming, few years, since they lost so much money when it comes to attendance at Galaxy's Edge. And now even it's just not even a month and a half later, we're already seeing, presumably we're already seeing the ramifications of that. No new Tomorrowland. I mean, Fantasyland, it was either Fantasyland or Tomorrowland. I was more leaning towards Tomorrowland being the announcement because it needs it more than Fantasyland. Fantasyland is fine right now as it is. I mean, obviously it could use a few upgrades, but Tomorrowland, like Alex was saying earlier, legit needs a demo rebuild. It does. No mention at all. But I'm so glad they brought the Bullseye on stage to talk about the Target collab. That was really awesome. I'm still trying to make sense of this. They talked about the Disney Cruise Line, which, I'm not a very big Disney Cruise Line fan. I've never been on a cruise before. They announced 3 new ships for the Disney Cruise Line. They announced a new destination headed by Joe Rohde.
They announced the preservation of the wildlife and sanctuary by bulldozing part of it to make a resort.
Yeah, again, I'm not a big fan of cruises, so I don't feel like I'm qualified to speak on that.
Yeah.
What else did they talk about? I feel like that's really it, was it? There was no Animal Kingdom. Oh, they announced new details on the Frozen attraction, the Frozen Land coming to Hong Kong. They announced new details about the new castle coming to Hong Kong, the new Disneyland castle, which, those are already 2 years old announcements, I feel like, at this point. Which is interesting because the name of the Frozen Land roller coaster was the exact same name that people have been predicting for the past, year and a half. So, we basically already knew what was going to be happening there. No mention of Paris, I don't think. No mention at all of Paris. Let's see. Keith says, Matt and Alex, what I would love is for Disney to have a ride and go through some of the classic scenes of early Disney cartooning. You could have a Walt animatronic and start it off, almost like a great movie. I think we've touched before on why Disney won't make any Walt animatronics or Walt impersonators for the parks. Interesting idea. It is very interesting to look at this in the context of Universal announcing a whole third park just a month ago. And then here we get, new daytime parade for Disneyland. That's pretty cool. Almost nothing, built up. Alex, what are you look disturbed. What are you reading?
Oh no, it's just I'm surprised. Daniel Gomez has wrote 16 paragraphs on
he's
Star
been
Tours.
He's been pitching his idea of bringing Star Tours to the Magic Kingdom.
To every park.
To every park, yeah.
Yeah, he wants one in every park, and each one different. Wow.
Daniel, you should be an Imagineer. Yeah, again, like I said, in the context of Universal announcing a whole third park just a month ago, where does Disney sit in regards to being the top in theme parks? I mean, granted, Galaxy's Edge is already open, basically, at Walt Disney World. But I don't know. I'm still trying to process this. I don't know what to think. Well, I guess I do know what to think. My main thought is that I'm disappointed. They announced new Star Wars hotel stuff. Yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Which I feel like I should briefly talk about that. The lady who came on to talk about the Star Wars hotel specifically said that the actions you take in the Star Wars hotel will have consequences, ramifications all throughout, your experience in the hotel, your experience in Galaxy's Edge, which they've been saying that for the past 5 years when they first announced Galaxy's Edge, that the decisions you make in the land will affect your experience in the land. And we haven't seen any of that. None of that technology or whatever they're trying to do that with has been implemented at Galaxy's Edge. I remember there being they specifically saying if you wreck the Millennium Falcon in Smuggler's Run, then a bounty hunter might come after you for like destroying the ship. But there's been none of that. Again, that may have to do with budget cuts. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I honestly don't have any other words to say here other than that we're very disappointed with the announcements that were coming out. James says presentation had zero organization. Yeah, I do agree. Frozen Ever After coming to Hong Kong, that was already announced as well, that they clone over Frozen Ever After from Epcot to Hong Kong. That's been announced before. Experimental prototype community of Target, someone tweeted. That's a funny meme.
So for those people, because this reflection that me and Matt are discussing right now on the panel, this is going to go in the final Matterhorn Mondays episode. Mm-hmm. We're not going to show the whole Parks panel segment that you guys got to see today. So
I'll link it down in the description for you guys, though. For you to, yeah. And I'll probably put out a separate video of just Alex and I reacting to it on the channel. Yeah. Anyways.
So what I wanted to say to those people who are watching this without that context necessarily is that because there was so very little new information that they put out in this Parks panel discussion, they ended up filling a lot of it with like bits of nostalgia, like just like little video segments of old Disney or things that pull at your heartstrings, stuff like that. And as a matter of fact, while you were in the restroom, I was telling everybody, like, pay attention to what they're saying here. Is that we don't have much to tell you, and a lot of it has nothing to do with the old Disney, which we are saying it is. So we're going to give you a positive feeling going away from this by delivering you, all these little nostalgia bits and things like that. It's like, it's smart because it's like, we want people to walk away from this panel discussion with that weird emotional Disney feel that we give you. But because they can't literally give that to you, they're just going to show you a bunch of old video clips of old Epcot, old Disneyland, old Walt, and make you feel like you just experienced something amazing when you didn't, because they don't want you to walk away from the Parks panel feeling like you saw nothing, which you did. You saw nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's cheap, trying to win over the Disney fans by parading around Walt Disney like he's on a stick, and parading around all these other favorite characters and people, such as as Dick Van Dyke and all that. It's not right to parade around your favorite people like that in order to make you walk away with this feeling like, oh, I think I am excited about this project.
You
know, it's cheap. It's not fair. And it's not fair to those people. They did the same thing when they did Galaxy's Edge. And I do like Galaxy's Edge, but I didn't like the way they opened it by saying, oh, Mark Hamill loves this. And here's, Harrison Ford, he loves this. And here's George Lucas. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and George Lucas did not want to be there because they don't like what is happening to Star Wars. But Disney is like, well, we've got a leash around you guys, so we're going to parade you around like little puppets to make everybody happy. And yeah, I'm probably speaking just for myself at this point right now, but that is what it comes off as when I look at this. It doesn't come off as genuine. It comes off as these are our puppets. We're going to, twirl them in your face and make you happy so that way you will like what we're showing you. So, and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, a lot of that can be applied to everything announced for Epcot. Again, we're going to get into a probably great discussion, hopefully next week with Jeremy with Epcot. Yeah, Epcot is they used a lot of the nostalgia original imagery from the original Epcot that opened. And even I remember when they were first getting into the topic of talking about Epcot, Bob put up that graphic of Walt in the quote about the original idea for Epcot, the city of Epcot, and he was trying to apply that to what they're doing to Epcot now, which doesn't make any sense at all because they're two separate things. One was a city, one is a theme park that you're trying to shove your IPs into. Very...
That is the perfect example right there, Matt.
Yeah.
Is they're trying to say, oh, this is what Walt wanted, this is what he dreamed of. But Walt was talking about a very completely different project. It was a city, a working city. And they're trying to use Walt to make you approve of their insertion of IPs and familiar properties. It's because they have nothing original to give you. And they want it to seem like, well, we don't need to give you anything original because we're Disney. We need to insert more Disney into it.
It's worth noting, right when the panel started, when Bob came on screen, the first words that came out of his mouth were, I used the word stories earlier, stories being referring to IPs from movies. The first words that came out of his mouth was that we're going to be putting more stories, more IPs into the parks because that's what the people want. Those were the first words that came out of his mouth. If you go back and watch the broadcast, the first words, putting more IPs into these Disney parks. Yeah, I feel like I don't really have anything else to say. I don't think. I was hoping to take more notes about the things that would be announced, details of things, but there was really nothing else. I think we touched on pretty much everything. Marvel Land. I think the concept art, they didn't show specifically all the pieces of concept art that WDW News Today leaked, but I think they showed one of them. Of that one image where they actually show Spider-Man in the concept art, where he's like messing around in like a pre-show or something. I think WDW News Today leaked that picture. So I guess those images were credible after all, even though I didn't see the other two images that they leaked. What else? Nothing else for California Adventure besides Marvel Land.
I just want to finish with a little quote that I think is just kind of fitting for this.
Okay.
So the fact that, to give it some context before I do, the fact that Bob was basically using all these little these little secret phrases and stuff like that to basically tell you, yeah, we're not going to do anything original anymore. It's going to be only IPs from now on. That's guaranteed. Is like saying that there's no longer going to be any more originality to Disney parks. It's all going to be 100% synergy and stuff. And so a little quote from Star Wars actually comes to mind when I think of this. In Revenge of the Sith, Padme Amidala is at the senatorial meeting where
I know where this
you
is
know
going.
where Palpatine basically announces that he is turning the galaxy into the first galactic empire, and she says. And by the way, everyone is applauding while this guy is basically saying, "I'm your new emperor."
Mm-hmm.
And Padme Amidala says, "So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause."
Yeah.
And it just makes me think, so watching all these Disney fans in the audience clapping as Bob Chapek is saying, "We're going to put more Disney into our parks," and everyone is just applauding. It just makes me think, so this is how originality dies, with thunderous applause.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
Fitting
just completely sad.
Yeah, fitting quote. I did hear some people groaning and moaning at some of the Epcot things. It's worth noting that I could hear some people in the audience visibly were annoyed, I guess, at what they were announcing with Epcot. But yeah, very accurate quote. I think this is going to wrap up this week's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. Thank you all for joining us on this very, very special episode of the show. I don't think I have anything else I'd like to announce to anybody, other than that hopefully next week the show will be at the normal 4 p.m. Disneyland time on Saturday, normal recording time. Hopefully we can have Jeremy on as well. Talk about Epcot, talk about his recent trip to Walt Disney World. Very excited to get into that. We're going to be detailing all of the other announcements, hopefully, from the movie studios, the movie studio announcements that happened on Saturday to Disney Plus stuff. We're going to get into that in future episodes. This was just mainly focused on the Parks and Resorts panel, because that's mainly what we care about here. Mainly what we're passionate about. Yeah, we'll get into more details on as well. If new things get announced within the coming week, which I really doubt, we'll detail whatever happens on next week's show. But anyways, yeah, thank you all for coming out to today's episode. It's one a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I assumed that the panel would be only like an hour, but it turned out to be like almost 2 hours. Anyways, yeah, again, thank you all for coming to today's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. Alex, do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to say to everybody?
No, that's all I got.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you all for coming out to today's episode. As always, links in the description down below. I didn't get to mention any of the sponsors today. Of course, puckermint.com. Use code MMDays for 15% off your purchase. Great website. Support local businesses. At least they're local to me. So I'm so passionate about it. Of course, theliveplace.com, your family-friendly live streams, your destination for family-friendly live streams, including me, Resort TV 1, as well as a lot of other great Disney streamers out there. Yeah, of course, our Twitter, Instagram, Alex's Twitter, his channel, everything, you guys know the drill, will be down in the description below. Mishicat says, this was an interesting podcast. It sure was. Sure was an interesting podcast. But anyways,
it was like a trip down the rabbit hole.
It really was. I don't know why I feel so gassed right now. I've just been sitting here watching a video for like 2 hours. I shouldn't be feeling this exhausted. But anyways, yeah. Big thank you to everybody who came out. I think we peaked at like 100 viewers at some point, and of all the platforms combined. So big thank you to everybody who came out live. And yeah, on that note, thank you for coming to today's episode. And as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.